Well, that's how that piece worked. Came along '63, and the company wanted to go into international racing over here. Sebring being the only choice. We were going to go to Sebring again. At that point, Cass Kastner was working in California at the what had been the California distributorship, which was now a Triumph office. I don't know her either. So Cass was put in charge of setting up the cars, and I was put in charge of organizing motels, meals, entries, da-da-da-da. Cass had never put together a team. Yeah, that's me. And you notice, it's what is it, Aqueduct Raceway, so it was dirt. But it was November, and the track was very hard. And I wasn't going all that fast, so they minimized the dust rooster tail, and it wasn't a bad picture. Yeah, well, I have a picture unretouched that shows that it's flex pipe. So we went to Sebring. I had never organized anything like that before. Cass had never put together a 3-car team before. We got there and we had 3 cars and we had motel rooms and we had meals all set, and we went to registration and they said, "Where are the papers?" Papers? I said, "Here's our entries." No. Homologation forms. Now, for international racing, FIA, you need a complete technical form with pictures of certain aspects of the car and so forth, which is submitted to the organization by the manufacturer. We didn't have them. So a quick call, well, it wasn't very quick, but a quick call to the UK. They had to send somebody on a plane with the papers, who delivered them to my assistant in New York, who then flew to Florida so we could get the darn cars in the race. And we did not do too badly. We finished second in class and won the team prize. No, not too bad. Not too bad. Let's see. Have you seen the movies with Triumph in them lately? There's the latest Anne Hathaway picture called One Day. And there's a Vitesse in there, a Vitesse convertible, and in quite a decent length scene. And I haven't seen Tintin, but there's a TR2 sequence in there with Tintin driving, which I thought was kind of neat. So, you know, we're still around. Still around. Well, let's see. I've almost got up to the point where I'm ready to take questions. But I have to say that I went to a swap meet a couple of years ago. I happened to be speaking to a gathering out in Arkansas. And they had a regular, not a Triumph swap meet, not a British car swap meet, but a regular swap meet going that weekend. And I went over and I actually bought a TR3 for $3. And now I have to admit, of course, it was about this big, made out of glass. But I told the story at the club gathering that night, and somebody said, "Well, if it was a cologne bottle, did it still have the cologne in it?" And I said, "Heck no, it's a British car. It all leaked out long ago." And, you know, I've gone through most of my notes, and I'd love to hear if anybody wants me to talk about any particular subject or answer a question. I'd love to do it. Right over there.
You got to tell one story about taking delivery in England. Owners who took delivery and drove around for 2 years.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I left that out. Matter of fact, Al Strajewski brought over some really interesting Triumph Rally of Europe material. It's over on the table over here. You should take a look. Now, the Triumph rallies of Europe were, on the surface of it, a scheme to sell Triumphs for overseas delivery. Actually, it was a big publicity stunt, and anybody who went on one of those things had a great time because there was so much covered. What you did was you went in to your dealership and you ordered your TR3, and you paid additional for admission to the rally. It worked out in the first couple of years to about $3,000 for the car and one person. Second person was another $700 or $800. That, in the early days anyway, the first couple of them, included the flight over and back. It included shipping the car back. The flights for the first few rallies were charters, so you could do pretty much anything you wanted. And what you did was you got on you had dinner at the airport, and you climbed on the airplane, you flew all night, you landed at Heathrow in the morning, and there lined up on the tarmac were all the TR3s. About, for the first couple of rallies, about 40 of them. And you climbed in your car and drove on the wrong side of the road for lunch at the Royal Automobile Club, where you were served drinks. And then you climbed in and drove on the wrong side of the road down to the south coast, where you finally got into a hotel, and then went to France the following morning on the ferry. The event was shepherded by mechanics from the factory with a load of spares. There was a baggage van to take care of all the Americans' extra luggage. There were representatives from British Petroleum. There was a representative from the travel agency, and there were representatives from the company, all traveling along. So say you're on the trip from Calais down to, where did we go? Rouen. And you pull up at the hotel in Rouen, unload your baggage, and the mechanic says, "Right, Mr. Cook, I'll take the car now." Takes the car away, fills it up with gas, washes it, brings it back, and the following morning you've got a clean car with a tank full of gas ready to go on to Monte Carlo. Not a bad deal at all. There were parties, the European distributors hosted parties. I was telling somebody about on the way back, and I didn't get in on this. I didn't go until 1960, so this was, 58, 59. On the way from Switzerland into Paris, they stopped off for a tour at a winery. As they went from cave to cave in this winery, they got a little sample each time. So after, 8 or 9 shots of wine, you arrived for lunch, where of course there was wine. And after that, you staggered out in the parking lot and headed for Paris. And there was a coffee stop where you didn't have to have coffee, and you still had to drive into Paris at rush hour and park. The trip I went on was the 3-week version, which was absolutely fantastic. We went to 10 different countries. I was followed, I drove into Italy from Monte Carlo, and I see a bright yellow Fiat sedan with a 6-legged dog on the side, sitting over there. That's the dog is the symbol of the Agip Petroleum Company. It seemed that Agip was trying to get in on the act, and they'd send a representative to try and help out with the rally. Well, of course, we had a car full of BP guys. So right away there was going to be, and I told this Agip guy, whose English was fortunately a little better than my Italian, that there wasn't anything he could do. It was all arranged. He said, "Well, I come along." So, son of a gun, he trailed the rally to Pisa, Florence, Rome, Assisi, all the way back up to the Austrian border. buying lunch and dinner when he could, you know, not bad at all. We had a couple of apprentices in the baggage van. It was a standard Atlas van, which is like a big Dodge van with a Spitfire motor in it. And loaded down. I mean, when do Americans go on a 3-week trip without taking this many suitcases? And it would labor its way up an Alp and roar down the other side because it also had Spitfire brakes. And these two guys, I remember the name of one of them. He was an Irishman named Sean McIntyre. And he and the other guy went out in Paris, got, what do they say, sozzled? And I thought they were gone. So I was always the last one out of the hotel because I was the rep and I wanted to make sure. I thought they were gone. We got to Calais, you know, we're in sight. They're still thundering along coming out of Paris. So we got into the hotel in London and the luggage arrived about 3 hours later with 2 very hungover apprentices. It was a lot of fun. It really was a tremendous amount of fun. As I say, we went to 10 countries. We didn't travel in convoy. You were turned loose after breakfast. You had a triptych. Lunch was on your own. Dinner was there when you arrived. And as I say, they were taking care of the car. They were pouring you full of booze. And it was fun. It was fun. All right, anybody? Yes, sir.
I'm always interested in stories about, I mean, we know that the cars are unreliable, but my 6 years of ownership would be a different story. But do you have any stories of people writing in or coming to the offices with problem British products and complaining?
I was pretty well shielded from that, in that it went to the district manager or it went to the customer relations people, and I was floating around on top issuing press releases about how reliable they were, and what was feeding in from underneath sort of hit the ceiling and dropped away. In point of fact, until we hit the TR7, we didn't have, until we hit the Stag, we didn't have any terribly unreliable cars. They were okay. They weren't super. You couldn't count on it like you could your Chevrolet. But in those days, I never broke down on the road that I couldn't fix it. You know, the cars were simple, and most of the time you could keep it on the road. When we got to the Stag, that was a... Oh, I know. I can duck behind you. The trouble with the Stag was that it was very complex, and the Triumph factory had not done anything that complex before. And they did pretty well. They only really needed another 18 months or 2 years of development in order to make it work. I mean, anybody who knows about a Stag knows that when they first came in, I think they had a 12-pound pressure cap. The last year of production, the pressure cap was 20 pounds. Well, if you had used a 20-pound cap on a 1971 Stag, it would have sprayed water from here to over there.